Hi, this is Curt and welcome to another edition of Fire Law Roundup.
Geez, Curt, you and I were just at a conference, and I don't know how many times this one came up, but I was teaching a lot, at least in some of my sessions, I was teaching a lot about how not to allow other people to steal. And here we go. We have yet another treasurer, not surprising, stealing from, in this case, a North Carolina fire department, and she stole $48,000. I do this every time we talk about theft. I mean, these are the way she stole are the two easiest ways to prevent. She stole from writing checks directly to herself. So that tells you nobody is checking. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be hard on the department, but come on, this is enough already. And she was writing checks directly to herself. That should have popped right out. She also took cash withdrawals, and had they looked at a bank statement, that would have popped right out. So I'm not blaming, but I'm just saying that these things are easily preventable if we would just look at the bank statements and perform internal audits. You point to a friend of yours who points to pink collar crime. This is another female who stole. And I think statistics say that for some reason it's more women than men who steal. I don't know why that is. But.
Well, yeah, no, it's not actually that. It's just that I think we all have a bias. And this is where I think the crux of the problem is. Number one, we have a bias in favor of other firefighters, and we trust them. And we feel that they would never steal from us, that they're above board and they're above reproach. So that's sort of bias number one. Bias number two, and I think what you're getting at here is that we tend to think that people who steal are more likely to be men, that men are more likely to steal, women are less likely to steal. And that's not accurate. It's not that they're any more or less, they're the same. And right. When we make the assumption that they're less likely, we tend to put less checks and balances in there to identify these things and prevent them from happening. And you're absolutely right. I mean, she was only there. You look at it, I included that in the post there. And again, this is the Pierce's Mill Fire Department, okay, in North Carolina. She had only been the treasurer there since July of 21. So she stole almost $50,000, or she's accused of stealing $50,000 in a little over 18 months. So, my assumption is she got in there and pretty quickly realized, hey, nobody's watching the hen house. And maybe there was an expectation that she would be the one that's watching the hen house. But at any rate, we see it once again, and it is all too familiar. But again, one of the things that Kelly says, and again, Kelly Paxton from Pink Collar Crime, is she said a man is more likely to rob you. If you think about getting robbed, no, think about it, right? A male is much more likely to rob you, whereas a female is much more likely to embezzle, forgery, and those types of things, okay? And also another thing is a male is more likely to take a large amount all at once.
That is totally consistent with what I have seen over the past couple of decades, no question.
And females are more likely to take a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. Some of them, Kelly's got a number of case studies where people have stolen, like a secretary or a bookkeeper has stolen, $25 a week for 20 years. Yeah. And varying amounts, but that's some of the differences. But it may be, and I can't even say it's more likely that a woman is more likely to embezzle. Kelly would have that kind of information. But the point is, we've got to recognize our own bias. Okay. And our bias is usually in favor of firefighters, number one. And number two, and I can't speak for everybody, I can speak for myself. I have a bias that supports women, that believes women are less likely to do this. And we've got to overcome that and recognize that anyone under certain circumstances may steal from us, and we need to have precautions put in place.
Right. And let's be fair. When people steal in fire departments and ambulance services, it's always the person we trust. right? The person who steals from us is always the person we trust, because we treated them like we didn't trust them. Then we would be conducting internal audits and always. So nobody should be shocked that it's the person we didn't, that person who stole from us and we trusted them. You should be like, oh my God, I didn't see this coming. You should always see it coming and put in internal audit procedures. And they're so simple to do. If you just review the bank statements and you compare the checks, the front and the back of the checks, and you compare it with the bill, you can prevent this. And if you set it up in a notebook where it goes in check order and you put every return check, staple it to the voucher and to the invoice, and you compare it, you can audit every month in probably about 20 minutes, 15 minutes. And if you do it every month, it's a manageable project, but everyone has to do this. And I caution people, I know everyone thinks, oh, we have insurance if somebody steals, but all of those insurance fidelity
It's not going to help you
coverages-
reputation wise. You can have all the
doesn't help your reputation and
reputation
and donations and tax money. Nobody necessarily feels bad for you because you let it happen, but you better be careful with insurance, because the insurances have a disclaimer: if you knew or should have known. And the failure to conduct audits is a you could have or should have known. And if you weren't looking, they could disclaim on insurance. And by the way, everyone should check their fidelity coverages, because a lot of these are like at $50,000. She got caught right up to that limit, but we've seen 1.5 million. We've seen 5 million. We've seen all sorts of ranges. So this is nothing new, but we have the same discussion. We should just hit replay every single time.
Let me make my point. One of the things that, because I've been dealing with this now since I first became aware, roughly 15 years ago, I first became aware that this was an excessive problem for the fire service. And so I reached out to a number of different people, Kelly included, but some other people as well. And they said, if there's one thing that you could do, it's to make sure that all of your account statements are mailed to someone other than the person who has check writing authority or credit card writing authority. Because if they can write the check and they can intercept it, it'll never get to the audit committee.
Right. And of course, now we have online banking. Just give the entire board of directors online banking access to be able to view. They don't have to be able to, cut checks, but to be able to view at the very least.
One of the other challenges here is that, especially in a volunteer organization, nobody wants to do this. Nobody has the time. Firefighters join the fire department in order to go on responses. They barely have enough time to do that, fulfill their training requirements. And now we want them, a small group of them, to come together monthly and do the audit. Okay. And I hear that a lot when I try to convince my clients that they need to do this. The thing that they're neglecting is that when you are an elected officer of a corporation, whether it's a fire district or whether it's a volunteer fire company, you have a fiduciary duty. And when you don't satisfy that fiduciary duty, you can find yourself personally liable for this as well.
Okay. And you just did such a nice plug. I don't know if you know this yet, but our law firm does, I'm going to do a little bit of advertising, which I never do on our site here, but our law firm does a ton of financial record keeping for fire departments and ambulances and fire districts. We got so busy that we've had to now split it off into a new company. So I'm excited to announce the launch of a company called Fire Service Financials. And if people want to see, we have a rate schedule. We keep financials and we review all of the bills and receipts for this exact problem. It's too hard to get treasurers who know how to do this. They don't provide the proper monthly financial reports, and there's a lot of them. They don't know how to fill out a 990. So we launched fireservicefinancials.com, where we are keeping records. We've been doing it for 20 years, but we just got so busy, we had to kind of put it over to another company. And
who's is Nicole handling that?
Nicole is in charge of it. Yeah. She's been for 2 decades doing financials for fire departments, ambulances, et cetera. She's good at it. And when she does it, she reviews the receipts and the vouchers, the disbursements, because we're not labeling anything as what it appears to be unless we can establish it. And then once we do that, then we provide the financial report. So it's an unfortunate realization, exactly as you said, that it is very tough to get a qualified treasurer in place. But we think this is an important step. We think it's important for the fire service. You know, accounting is too hard, frankly, and using QuickBooks is not that easy. You still have to know the accounting principles. And so we decided we're going to go national now. We were doing it in New York, but now that we want to expand nationally, we've separated off. So if anyone's interested, go to fireservicefinancials.com. This was not intended. Obviously, I didn't know this was
I
gonna come.
wasn't even aware of it. And I spent the whole weekend with you. And but that's good.
We've just launched it, planning for it, but now we're going nationwide. Okay.
So more on that. More on that
to come. I'll put up little advertising banners on your site.